Today we'll be looking at forgotten features, items and gameplay mechanics that have been long forgotten about from older Counter-Strike titles. Starting off with usable vehicles that actually used to be a lot more common than people might think. For example, in the 7.1 beta version of Counter-Strike in the year 2000, there was actually a very real APC tank that you could drive around on the map CS_Siege. Now, at least to my knowledge, the APC didn't really serve any actual purpose, except for being a faster way to travel, to kill your teammates, or to block off certain areas. Which is probably why the APC didn't last too long, and got removed entirely a few updates later. But that wasn't the only instance of usable vehicles in the game. There was also a very loud but a very usable boat on AS_Riverside, a whole moving train system on the map DE_Railroad, and even drivable jeeps on the map DE_Cheapathon 2K, which, believe it or not, was an actual official map in the game at one point in time. Now, before we move on, I want to thank today's sponsor, SkinsMonkey. SkinsMonkey is a trading site that allows you to easily and instantly trade or upgrade your CS2 skins, while also offering a massive selection of skins to choose from. And by using my code SNIF, you can get an extra 5% bonus on your deposit, on top of the 30% the site already offers. And if you want to earn $5 for free, just use my code and trade up to $100 worth of skins. But don't worry, even if you don't have any skins, SkinsMonkey gives away free skins every day, so go check them out. Moving on, we got a really strange feature. Now, as you're all probably very well aware, the knife allows you to run at the fastest speed in the game, which is 250 units per second. But in CS Source, and probably even in earlier titles, the Scout was even faster, allowing you to run at a whopping 260 units per second, which makes absolutely no sense. I mean, you were basically able to buy extra running speed for around $2,000. But to be fair, maybe they were just trying to bring more attention to the Scout by making it a more viable weapon, which definitely ended up working. Next, let's talk about hostages. So in every CS before CSGO, you were actually able to kill hostages, even as a T. Now, obviously, you did get a money penalty every time you killed a hostage, but that didn't mean players couldn't use this strategically, since you could just spend all your money before the round started, and then practically eliminate every hostage without taking a single negative effect. Now, there obviously were some limiting factors, like the game only allowing you to kill 3 out of the 4 hostages before you got kicked, but if you managed to kill all 4 fast enough, you could completely avoid getting kicked. Also, another cool thing with the hostages was the fact that you didn't have to carry them like you do now. Instead, they could use their own 2 feet and just followed you around. Now let's talk about the fact how you were able to make your own custom sprays in 1.6, and it was insanely easy. All you had to do was just launch HL Converter, import the images you wanted to use, then crop it a bit, and you could now use it in game. It's honestly pretty crazy that this used to be possible. There were absolutely no filters or restrictions on what you could use, which obviously prompted a lot of people to use a lot of disturbing, or at the very least questionable images. But that did lead to some really funny moments in game. Okay, now one of my absolute favorite things from all the Counter-Strikes is how interactive the maps truly were. Like in CS Source, for example, maps used to have a ton of props in them, and practically every single one of them you could either move around or even destroy, which just made the game feel so much more immersive. And even in the original Counter-Strike, that released in 1999, had a lot of features just like this. Now, although you couldn't destroy and move around every prop, there still were a lot of features that made the maps feel interactive, like functioning elevators, cameras that you could control, ice and bridges that would break if you stepped on them, exploding barrels, turrets, and even lightning that could kill you. But that wasn't all. There were also really cool Easter eggs in the game, with my favorite one being on the map Storm, where you could get a free AK, and all you had to do was plant the bomb on top of these boxes, then wait for the bomb to explode, and upon returning you could find a AK on the ground that you could now pick up. Also, another insane Easter egg was on the map Torn, where you could call in a literal airstrike just by coming to this store. Now, although this did look like just a visual Easter egg that blew up a small part of the roof, you were actually able to kill anybody who stood under it, which made this Easter egg actually kinda have a useful function as well, since you could use it to guarantee this spot on the map to be free of any opponents. Now, even though people might disagree if Easter eggs like this belong in a competitive game, I honestly don't really care, I just think they're really cool. Moving on, we got the long forgotten VIP game mode. That was essentially just an escort mission where you had to help one specific player in your team reach a designated area in order to win. For example, a helicopter on the map oil rig. Honestly, this game mode does sound extremely fun in theory, but that doesn't mean it didn't have its issues, since nobody ever actually wanted to be the VIP. Simply because despite the VIP having extra armor, he also had only the default USP pistol with only a single magazine. And to make matters even worse, the VIP couldn't pick up any extra ammo or any other guns for that matter. So it was overall just pretty boring. You had to completely rely on your team to guard you, and if they failed, you couldn't do anything about it. Next, we got a really cool feature in 1.6, which is the ability to perform knife headshots. Now, this was something that added a whole new level of skill to knife fights, and was something you just had to learn if you wanted to win them. Also, this mechanic became especially useful in knife rounds, since usually if you had the man advantage, you were almost guaranteed a win, unless you fumbled insanely hard. But in 1.6, 1v5 knife fights were actually very probable and weren't that uncommon, purely thanks to the ability to perform knife headshots. Now lastly, we got something that probably only movement players care about, which is the speed of which you were able to climb ladders at. Now, in case you didn't know, ladder climbing used to be a lot quicker, right up until the early days of CSGO, and it allowed you to pull off some really cool tricks, like performing a ladder jump straight over heaven on Nuke into the A site without ever touching the ground. And even in the early days of Counter-Strike, you were also able to push yourself into areas that weren't normally even possible.